Auburn is not a place, it is a people. The loveliest village on the plains is more than a college sports venue, more than a university filled with historic buildings, more than a quaint little southern town. Its worth lies within its people, those that call Auburn home, whether that be for a single day at a time or for a lifetime. Much like our legendary Toomer's oak trees, our stories are the product of a firm foundation laid in the beginning of our Auburn story. These are the stories of the Auburn family. These are their roots.
War Eagle Auburn family, and welcome back to Auburn Roots. This is our journey of exploring and sharing the stories of your Auburn family members. On episode 29, we're going to be getting to talk to someone who is very closely connected with Auburn University, the athletic program, and more specifically, the spirit of Auburn University and its athletic program. On today's episode, I'm pleased to welcome Miss Latisha Durroh, the spirit leader, I guess is the way I'm going to describe her as. She has many more titles, the Director of Community Relations and the Spirit Squad, but I'm happy to have her as my guest here on Auburn Roots. So Latisha, welcome.
Hey, Kyle, War Eagle.
War Eagle to you, and I thank you for hopping on a podcast with a random dude who wants to, talk about your Auburn story. And
thank you for inviting me.
Of course. As I told you pre-show, there are many people who have said, I need to speak with you about your Auburn story because obviously you are, like I said, you're very well connected. You spend a lot of time in the background with some stuff that maybe doesn't necessarily get seen in what makes Auburn athletics, but Auburn University so very special. And we're going to get into all that today. But what I'd like to do, and what I usually start with our guest, is to get to know a little bit of you outside of Auburn. So could you kind of tell me where you're from originally? Anything from, if I sat you down on a couch, tell me about your childhood. Let me get to know you a little bit better.
Yeah, I am from Kennedy, Alabama, which is a little small town of about 500 people in West Alabama. It's close to Tuscaloosa and Columbus, Mississippi. And my parents still live there. I have one brother and niece and a nephew. And I have loved Auburn since I was little. And so when I was thinking about college, I applied here. And I came here as a freshman in 1989. And I've pretty much been here since then. So it's pretty exciting.
Kind of gets into your blood and infects you, doesn't it?
It does, doesn't it? I can't even imagine living anywhere else. When I was a student, I always said, I wish I could live there and not go to class to study. And so now I get to do that. It's pretty neat.
You have definitely found the sweet deal there. I think there's many Auburn students that have found that to be a wish of theirs and have not been able to accomplish that just yet, but you have definitely found a sweet spot that many of us are very envious of. So Kennedy, Alabama. I'll be honest with you, it's the first time I've ever heard of Kennedy, Alabama. You said it's near Tuscaloosa, Mississippi. Something I'm always interested in hearing about for an Auburn family perspective. What's it like being an Auburn fan so close to Tuscaloosa?
It's really kind of funny because anytime we win big, I always want to make sure they see my car tags. And unfortunately, I do have some Alabama family members. And so I don't talk a lot of trash, but they always seem to. So I will try to make sure I just see them during the holidays on those years that we win. So I can just give them a big War Eagle because, they're saying their little words to me all the time.
That's a very common thing.
I think I've converted a lot of people too. So
yeah.
A few more Auburn fans up in that area since I've been at Auburn.
Yeah, it seems to be spreading a little bit. And, I find the trend tends to be people tend to convert to Auburn as opposed to convert to Alabama. I don't know what that says. It says something, but I don't know what it is. But I can imagine, just growing up in that area, having to live with that being the predominant fandom, the predominant sports team there. Mm-hmm. What about Mississippi? You're really close to Mississippi. Did you have a lot of those type fans?
We have some family members who are Mississippi State grads as well. That's not as tough of a rivalry for us as Tuscaloosa is, but we do have some state fans in the family too.
Well, that's awesome. We don't usually get to talk about Mississippi a lot. I think they get forgotten sometimes in the SEC. They're over there next to Alabama and Auburn and kind of smashed in when they're with LSU and Texas A&M and Arkansas. So it's nice to mention that, hey, they're there sometimes,
They are.
They're pretty decent schools too. How about this though? You said growing up, you were a lifelong Auburn fan. Family dynamic, you already mentioned there's some Alabama fans mixed in there, but what's your intermediate family like? Mom, dad, are they Auburn fans?
They are. I've converted them. My stepdad actually was a principal, and he graduated from Arkansas, and then he has a specialist degree from Mississippi State. But most of my immediate family are now Auburn. My brother came to Auburn for a little while, and my cousin came to Auburn for a little while as well. So I was very excited to convert them to Auburn fans as well.
It's interesting. You keep bringing up conversions, and I love it because it just suits you for your role that you're in now with Director of Community Relations. It just, your role is to reach out to the community now and bring these people into the Auburn family. And you've been doing this your entire life.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
awesome.
You got to spread some Auburn love out there and just be real nice to them. And then they'll want to come over to our side.
Absolutely. So from childhood, what are some things that you remember being an Auburn fan, some big games or big moments, or even if they're not some of the bigger, more obvious ones out there, like some special memories you have of growing up as an Auburn fan?
The Iron Bowl, that's always a memory that we've all had. I remember watching it on TV when it was in Birmingham and not understanding why it was in Birmingham when Alabama played some of their home games in Legion Field. So that's one of my earliest ones. And then the basketball team, the men's team, was really good when I was in high school, and you would see them in the NCAA tournament. And then right before I got here in '88, I believe it was, women's basketball started their 3 trips to the finals game. And so I remember watching it. And then when I was a student, I worked in the basketball offices some. So I got to meet Coach Champy and be around him and all of the players then. So it's really just neat to now be a part of all of that in person and to have the opportunity to work at our athletic events and see all the things that I've seen on TV as a little girl. To be able to experience those things in a person is pretty amazing. I always tell my kids, cheerleaders, that every time I walk into the stadium, I am just as excited as I was in '89 as a freshman walking in there for the very first time. I was a freshman in '89 when the Iron Bowl came here for the first time.
Wow.
Just remember, all the emotions and all the people, and Tiger Walk, you could not see the ground because there was just so many people packed in there, so excited for the big game. So it's kind of full circle to be able to be around everybody in our events, now every day as my real job.
It's interesting that you brought that up, and I want to jump forward real quick and then we'll come all the way back in your story. But since you brought it up, the '89 Iron Bowl, I've asked one other person this previously. I can't remember who it was and what episode it was. It's escaping me right now. But what I've described is the 2013 Iron Bowl, the Kick Six. There, even before the game, there was this electricity. I was there. There was something in the air, even the night before, the days leading up to it. I can only imagine, and I was born, but I was not a coherent, adult. I was still probably I don't know how old I was, but not enough to understand the magnitude of the '89 game. So in your opinion, '89, 2013, how does that compare? Was there a bigger electricity in the air for one or the other, or is there any comparison?
I really think '89, there's no comparison to it because it was just the first time. And you could see the emotion just in the players' eyes. And then every interview you saw that day, and Coach Dye, you felt like he's about to cry any minute now because he brought this game here to our campus. And then just seeing like little children and older alums just all so excited to be able to host them here on our campus. And it was just amazing. And then going into the game, I remember, and everybody talks about it, but the shaker dust, because there were paper shakers back then. And you just saw that just kind of like snow from the sky because it was everywhere because everybody was so excited and, you just shook your shaker so hard. So I think really that year, just because it seemed like Auburn had waited forever to be able to host that game. And then for us to win it too, you just couldn't have written a better story.
Do you miss the paper shakers? Do you still wish we had those?
I do not at all. It's just get everywhere, and I wear contacts and they get in eyes too. So I'm like, no, I do not miss the paper shake.
It was
a
very
lot of people
unique.
every year want to bring those back, and like, do not talk to me. I am not the girl to bring those back.
And you're like, I've seen this, it was great one time. Let's not do that again. That's the special memory that needs to be in 89, and let's never do that again.
For sure.
All right, well, let's go back just a little bit. And let me ask you, you've said from the very get-go here, it was Auburn all the way. Was there any moment or opportunity for you to go somewhere else for school that you kind of considered?
No, there really wasn't. I didn't know, though, if I would be able to come straight here out of high school or if I would have to go to a junior college first. My parents were divorced when I was little, and I just didn't know if we'd be able to afford for me to come straight here. And my mom said, she'd do her best. If I wanted to come here, we'd figure it out. And I worked 4 years as a student, as a tour guide for Auburn as well. So that kind of helped pay for expenses too. But there wasn't, I was just so sure that I was going to come here. I didn't even apply anywhere else. So I did not do a good job with a backup plan if I didn't get accepted. But thank goodness I got accepted and got to start here as a freshman.
Well, yes, it might be smart to have a backup plan. However, there's something to be said about being so singularly focused on a goal, especially, it's not like it was a bad idea to go to Auburn's a great school, obviously for academics and athletics and just the whole experience of a full college experience. But being so singularly focused for something, I'm sure gave you the drive to make it happen and gave your parents the drive to make it happen for you as well. And I'm sure there were some very hard things that you guys had and sacrifices they and you had to make to get here. But here you are now. And you have this legacy of love that started within your family and kind of built it to your time now here at Auburn. So we're so happy that you're here and part of this family now because you've got so many great things that we've got to get moving here and touch on because you've got an awesome, great story here. All right. So you arrive in Auburn in 89. We've already touched on that you experienced the very first Iron Bowl. Every time I talk to somebody and hear about their first Iron Bowl experience or their first big game experience, I'm like always amazed. Like nobody will top that. But your first Iron Bowl as a student is that game. And, I know we could talk about that forever, so I won't keep harping on that. Let's talk about a little bit about you coming into school. You graduated with a psychology degree. Is that what you started with?
It is. Majored in it from day one. But when I was about, a junior, I was like, I don't really want to work in that. I just want to work for Auburn. And so I like, okay, if I can find a position, I think I'll just stay there. And I was very lucky. As I said, I worked as a tour guide for my 4 years. And at that time we had pre-college counseling. It was before Camp War Eagle. And I had an opportunity to work summers with pre-college counseling. And I was an orientation leader my senior year. And I was lucky enough that they all liked me and liked the job that I did. And they created a position for me as an admissions counselor. So I graduated that summer and then I worked with them temporary services until my new job started on October 1st when the budget year started. So it was just amazing. So after that, I was like, I think I just want to work for Auburn my entire life. And I pretty much did that. I did leave for 1.5 years after I'd been here for about 5 years. I decided I wanted to see the world outside of Kennedy and Auburn. And so I went all the way to Tallahassee because the world is Tallahassee, Florida. I worked at Florida State University in admissions for 1.5 years. But after I'd been there for probably about 3 months, I was like, I just don't think this is it for me. So I'm going to figure out a way to get back to Auburn. And after a year and a half, I came back and started working in the freshman year experience office, coordinating the Auburn Experience classes at that time, and then also being on the Camp War Eagle staff.
Mm-hmm. So what was the biggest difference between Auburn and Florida State?
I think the main thing in my mind was, everybody is really friendly here and they think they're really friendly, but they're friendly compared to maybe people in Miami. We're friendly to everybody everywhere. It's just a big difference I felt in Auburn friendly and feeling at home and what other schools probably have. It's different. You walk on our campus and you can feel like just from the people that you talk to, like, this is my home. And did not get that really there, even though everybody was nice. And it was great to see the world as I thought I needed to. But I quickly discovered that I was at home at Auburn and that's where I needed to be.
Yeah, it's an interesting trajectory that you had. Little Kennedy, Alabama, on the Mississippi line, small town Auburn, which is probably, I've never been to Kennedy, so I don't know, maybe a little bit of a step up because there's a big university there. And then you go to a state capital of Florida, so if the trajectory had kept going, I don't know where you would end up because it was kind of just slowly getting bigger. But you found your way back to Auburn. And it's the story that I hear a lot of time. A lot of people have already made that transition already back and are trying to right now. I'll be honest. My wife and I would love to do that someday. But we'll see if that happens. You mentioned that you were a campus tour guide. I think I've talked to at least one other person that's been one of those. So take me back to those times. Say I was in your tour group. Where would you take me first to show me how great Auburn is?
Well, we did it two ways. The first couple of years, we just walked them all around campus. And then the last 2 years, we started going to the Eagle's Nest and showing them the campus from the top of Haley Center. So the walking tour was my favorite, even though I loved the top of Haley because you could see everything and see into the town. But I think the more Auburn people you see, as you're walking around campus and the more people that say hello or War Eagle to families as they visited, the more they felt like this could be their home too. So I always wanted to show them Foy, which was the student center at that time, just because you'd always see students hanging out there that you knew would greet them and say War Eagle. And then everybody wants to know where you're going to eat. So you could show them downstairs to where the cafeteria was at that time that everybody kind of hung out at and ate at. And then Haley Center was a great place to go into because the bookstore was there because you knew they wanted to buy some gear. And then you knew that they'd have some freshman classes in Haley Center as well. So you could kind of tell them a little bit about that and the parents could kind of see where they would be. And then you always want to try to get as close to the stadium as you can because that is pretty impressive and everybody wants to see where the football team plays. And then our last stop was usually the Eagles cage, which was on campus at that time. So you could go there and show them the Eagle before you wrapped up. So those were some highlights that you always wanted to try to get into every tour.
Now, did you often take them over to Toomer's Corner and maybe to Toomer's Drugs to get a lemonade?
No, we didn't. We would tell them about Toomer's, but since that was technically off campus, that was not a part of our tour. I
figured that was going to be the case, but at least you drove people that direction. To me, I think if you needed any other selling point, if the stadium didn't do it for you, if the Eagle, the people didn't do it for you, just go get you a Toomer's lemonade and come sit back on Sanford Lawn and you'll be fine.
Oh, yeah. When I was here too, the Flush was so big. So we would always tell them about the Flush and going to get some ice cream from the Flush and kind of pointed them in that direction when they left Toomer's.
So I got to know, and everybody keeps bringing up the Flush here on this series, and I was never blessed enough to experience it. What was so good about it? I mean, was it just the only spot to go for that type of thing, or was it really just that good?
I think it was the only spot to go to. I didn't really eat there a lot, but it was just kind of fun to hang out. You would walk down there. We had free movies at Langdon Hall. So we would go to the free movies and then go to the flush, or go to the flush and then go to the free movies as entertainment. So I think it was more just a hangout spot with friends more than you were worried about the food or ice cream there.
The more I'm hearing about the flush these days is what I would equivalent it to is the varsity over here at Georgia Tech, because it's right across the street from campus. And it's kind of one of those things people would go after games and kind of go over there. And it's just, obviously it's a much bigger thing than the flush ever was going to be. But that's the best thing that I can come up to it, especially I think some of our Atlanta listeners will say, oh, well, maybe that's kind of what it, if they never experienced the flush themselves. So I had to stop on that because, I mean, literally it is becoming the most common theme now. It's either that or I got lost in the Haley Center. Speaking of which, as a student, did you ever get lost in there?
I really didn't, because they gave us a little code. And then, you know what I always did? And I told my kids that came to tours, before classes start, you need to go find all your classes so that you will know exactly where, and you won't be late the first day because you're having to find your classes. So for every semester, I had my schedule out and I walked and found all of my classes, and I pretty much took the same steps every single day so that I would not get lost going to my classes and I wouldn't be late.
See, I needed you as my tour guide because I did get lost in Haley Center. And if it wasn't for some helpful souls out there, I'd probably still be there and to this day, lost in the vortex that is the Haley Center.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you got to just walk it beforehand. And then once you find it, you'll always know where to go.
Absolutely. It'll trick some people up though. You know, it's one of those things too. I think there's a love-hate relationship with Haley Center because it's this monstrosity on campus, but it's almost the lovable monstrosity. I think if anybody ever tried to get rid of it, and I don't, you may be more privy to plans for the university, but if that ever happened, I can imagine there would be a big uprising of support to keep the Haley Center, because it's kind of the thing you love to hate, but you still hate how much you love it.
You're exactly right.
Maybe a little bit more about your academics at Auburn. You were a psychology major. Obviously, you kind of wanted to go into something a little bit different and work for the university directly. But what do you remember about those courses and your time taking some of those classes at Auburn?
I had great professors. I, for one summer, worked with a professor, like doing some research, helping her. I don't remember a lot about the research because it's been so many years ago, but I remember we had to watch mice and record some things every day for her. And she was amazing to work with. And I feel like they just took a lot of time and invested in you. And that was different from what I expected, because when I was looking at Auburn and, used to go to the college fairs, all of the small schools would always say, come to us because we'll have smaller classes and people will know who you are, and you will get lost if you go to a big state school. And I actually felt the opposite of that after I got out of the core classes, because, when I was in my major classes, I just felt like you got a lot of individual attention and your professors really invested in you and wanted you to succeed. And so they were great. And it was just, like I said, different than I had been told it would be at a big university.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I think there is that kind of, I won't call it a misconception, but at least the idea out there that if you do go to a big school, you will get lost. And there may be some truth to that in their first couple of years where you are just a small fish in a humongous pond. But as you said, as you get throughout a lot of your time there, as you get maybe into your core classes, the more focused classes, you become more specialized, obviously, as a student, but it's not that you become more important to the professors, but then they see that you put in the work to be here, to get through all of this stuff that maybe necessarily you didn't enjoy. And now you're here, it's like, now let me pour into you. Now let me invest into you. And I found that to be the case myself. I remember sitting in, I think it was like genetics 101 and just this giant hall. And I was like, this guy doesn't even know who I am in here. I'm just another guy to pass a test to. But then a year later, I'm sitting in a class of 20 people, if that, focusing on a little bit of something more focused subject matter. And then you'd have personal attention. They'd invite you to come to their office. So I'm glad that you echoed that. And a lot of people, I think that's fears of coming to a big school like that, because they might feel like they may not get that special attention that they need.
And I think you just got to find your place, whether that be in academics. We always talk about how many clubs and activities you can get involved in. I think there's a place for everyone. You just got to figure out where your place is.
Mm-hmm.
Once you find your place and your people, it'll be really just the best experience of your life. And is probably why so many of us want to live here and work here every day and not really leave.
Absolutely. Now, we talked a little bit about missions. We talked about you being part of the tour team. What other groups or clubs or anything did you get involved in on campus, or did you even have time to?
I was a Duncan Darling, and that was the basketball hostess group. So when I came as a freshman, I just saw a flyer on campus that talked about being involved with basketball. And I think it was like we started school in September, and in October, I signed up for an interview, and I got to interview with Coach Tommy Joe Eagles and Susan the Nunley.
Yeah.
And I was selected. So I was a Duncan Dollar for 4 years. And we basically just cheered for the basketball team at games. And then we helped out in the office, decorated hotel rooms if they had a recruit coming in. And I kind of found a good place and figured out that I could be a part of athletics, even though I was not an athlete.
Mm-hmm.
That was pretty neat. I went to all the basketball games, just men and women, just like I went to all the football games. And it was really great. And then once I graduated, Coach Champy still called me to give tours to his recruits for a long time. And I would meet with some of the guys' recruits and their parents to tell them about Auburn. So it was great to still be connected and to be connected with athletics that way. I was a cheerleader in high school, but all girls team, we didn't have guys. And so I knew I wasn't going to cheer in college, but I'm really just making the connection with Susan Nunley that October after I started in September. And then her being so great, that kind of led me to parts of my job now that I
mm-hmm. And it's a great segue, and I think we should talk about that now. So, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's fair to say that you are now what would amount to the leader of the Tiger Paws and the Auburn Cheer squad. Is that correct way to say that?
That's correct. I lead the cheerleaders every day. Helen Baggett is our Tiger Paw coach, so I just oversee their program, but it is great. We have 20 Tiger Paws, 21 cheerleaders, and I just say everybody's my kids. I don't have kids in my real life, but I always say kids, and people are like, how many kids does she have? She keeps talking about these kids. I'm like, well, I'm talking about the cheerleaders and the Tiger Paws because they are my kids, but it's just great. I am the day-to-day coach for the cheerleaders, and then I just assist the Tiger Paws with whatever they need. And then on game days, if you've ever seen me, I have a headset on. And so I'm on with marketing and the band and the control booth. And we just kind of make sure that we're doing the best we can to create the best atmosphere for our fans and for our teams as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, you mentioned that you do have a little experience yourself in cheerleading. Did you ever think that you would be leading a cheer, much less the Auburn cheer team?
When I was in high school, if somebody would have asked me what I was going to do, I would have probably said, I'm going to be a high school cheer coach. That's what I kind of thought in the back of my mind. My mom was a cheerleader. My aunt was a cheerleader. Then I was a cheerleader. And so I just assumed that one day I'd be running a high school cheerleader program. And so it's kind of funny now to think about it when I think, that was a little small dream, because now I get to run the Auburn University cheerleaders and just help them with whatever they need. So it's just amazing to be able to do that every day.
Yeah. Could you take me a little bit? And obviously, I know there's too much that happens during a week for you to really cover it all in great detail, but just as an overview, like let's say this is a football week, this is a Monday. What would a week leading up to the actual football game be like for you?
Well, we during the fall would practice Monday through Thursday nights. We practice for 2 hours a night. And then we also, a big focus of our squad is doing events in the community. Mm-hmm. So in the fall, we would normally have 3 to 4 appearances is what we call them during the week. And that could be anything from going to a daycare to do a pet rally for little kids, to going to a nursing home and doing a pet rally and visiting some of the residents there, to going on campus and doing some cheers at Heyday, or our UPC event. So we would practice every night, and then we have 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 appearances, depending on how busy the week is. And then during the fall, we also cheer at volleyball. And so we'll have volleyball mixed in. And then on Saturdays, we get to the stadium 4 hours before kickoff, and we set up. So if you've seen us, you know, we have our big flags, we have signs we use, and then we have our sound system to get set up. So we go right in and get all of that stuff done. And then we eat at our tailgate for about 45 minutes or so with the cheerleaders' parents. And then we have a picture time where we can take a lot of group pictures. And then we head to the stadium and drop everything off before we head up to the top of the hill for Tiger Walk. Mm. And then on game days, we try to do appearances on campus. So we split up into 3 groups and hit a lot of spots where we can see fans and they can get pictures with the Chillers and Tiger Paws. And then after that, we head to Spirit March and the Four Corners Pet Rally. And then that's normally puts us about an hour before kickoff. And then we go into the stadium, we warm up, and we get ready to run our team out with the flags. So a pretty busy week. And then normally Sundays we'll have volleyball, or as we get toward the end of football season on Sundays, there's women's basketball that starts up. Yeah. It's a very busy time for us.
And, you know, and that's what I'm thinking about here is your squad literally goes to every athletic event, and not just athletic event. You show up, as you said, community events, other events that are happening on campus. So literally, when do you guys sleep?
You know, they don't need as much sleep as I do because I'm way older than them, but they do have to go home and study. So at least I don't have to study when I finally get home. But, you know, it's so much fun. You know, one of the things that I stress is that, you know, we are Auburn to anybody that meets us. So, you know, a lot of like the little kids at some of the daycares don't have an opportunity to come to a lot of our games. So a cheerleader may be the first person that they ever meet that really is Auburn to them. So you want to just make sure that you are representing Auburn very, very well and sharing your love for Auburn to them as you meet them at events. One thing that I love to do is we pass out Albie stickers to everybody that we see. So I carry them in my purse. I give them to them as we're going, and you know we just give out those stickers to everybody. So people will see me at the grocery store at TJ Maxx and say, "Didn't you give me a sticker?" I'm like, "We sure did." You know, you just want them to have a little piece of Auburn, and little kids love stickers, so they'll remember that forever.
Absolutely. You know, it's always funny to me when we go to a fan day or an autograph sign or something like that. Obviously, everybody flocks to the athletes. You know, they're kind of the big thing. But what always amazes me is the crowd, and I mean crowd, that comes to your team, not just to the cheerleaders, but to the Tiger Paws. And it's obviously, you said it's like a lot of little children a lot of the times. And I don't think people appreciate that. That's where somebody's love of Auburn usually begins, is something like that. Someone who maybe was, quote unquote, a little bit more accessible than maybe an athlete might be. We always look to the great athletes and stuff like that, but we forget that sometimes that our love for Auburn starts with some of the more, I won't call it commonplace because it's not, but more accessible things, such as coming up to a cheerleader and getting an Aubie sticker, or hearing their story about why they love Auburn so much. So that's why I love what you do, but what your teams actually do as well, because it's an important service to obviously Auburn, but the community as well. You mentioned Aubie. You, I'm sure, have a very close relationship with that tiger. Give me a little perspective. What's he like?
Oh, he is great and the funniest tiger ever. You know, he just won his 10th national championship, so we're all so proud of him. You know, Aubie is under SGA here on our campus, And so I work closely with Corey Edwards, who is the Albie advisor, and they travel with us. And we kind of think of Albie as a part of our squad as well. So it's just fun to kind of hang out with him. Anytime you are in a bad mood, if you see Albie, your mood will instantly be excited and you'll be happy because he'll make you smile and laugh. It's just fun to be around somebody who loves Auburn as much as Albie does.
Yeah, if he can't put a smile on your face, I can't help you. You're just
exactly.
Unfortunately, you're just going to be an unhappy person.
Exactly. He makes all of us smile and happy, no matter what our age is.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned a little bit of community appearances that you guys do. What's your favorite one that you've done, maybe in the past, or one that you guys do often that you like to do outside of campus?
One of my very favorites is going to do a pet rally at Head Start. Mm-hmm. There's a local one, and I didn't know really much about Head Start when I started this job, that it is like a daycare for underprivileged children, and a lot of them don't get an opportunity to come to our game. So they make signs for us, and they make shakers, which when we were in elementary school, we did this, but you take a Coke can, you put rocks in it, and then you put paper around it and draw on it. And so when we go into that one, they always have their can shakers and their signs, and they are in orange and blue, and they are so excited to see us. And it just makes your day. One of the events, we didn't get to go last year because of COVID, but 2 years ago, I captured a picture of, and it's probably my favorite picture that I've taken all time, but there's a little boy who's hugging Cooper, one of our male cheerleaders, and you can just see the love from Cooper to him and him to Cooper, and it's just so special. And you felt like every kid there, you helped them love Auburn because they just were so excited to see you. I mean, it feels like you're a rock star when you walk in there because they are so excited. So that's one of my very favorite ones every single year, because the kids are like that every single year. And a few years ago, they were in the Boykin Center, and they had a senior citizens group who met there too. And so they came to the pet rally too. And so you had a spectrum of ages, but it was just all people who loved Auburn. So it was just really neat to see.
Yeah.
Probably my favorite. Another one of my all-time favorites was when we went out to California for the football national championship. Mm-hmm. The band set up and included the cheerleaders, and we did a parade through Disney. And so you always see when you go to Disney just as a spectator, doing the parades. And for one day, the cheerleaders and Albie and the Auburn University marching band, we were the talent there going through. That was really neat too, because all your life you hear about Mickey and Minnie and all of Disney, and we got to be in a parade there.
Mm-hmm. My family, we're personally very big Disney fans, but I would pick Albie over them any day of the week. If I could just make a request to Disney, can we just have Albie, and the cheerleaders in the parades instead of the characters? That would be great.
I think we could mix it up, but that's a pretty good idea. It was great. It's just something that you dream of as a little girl.
Yeah.
Go to Disney and just see the characters, and Cinderella's my favorite. But we got to be rock stars going through that day as well.
Now, I'm going to make a special request here, because I know that you do so much behind the scenes, and I can't tell you how grateful we are for that. And I'm sure people express that to you, but I want to make sure that we share that here too. But you have an infectious spirit for the Auburn family that I think a lot of us are envious of. Can I request, and our mic men, they do a great job out there to football. Can I guess or just request that you maybe go up there and lead us one time in a football game?
Probably not going to happen. I could do it. I always tell them, don't make me have to be the mic man today, but I think it's better coming from a male, louder voice.
Sure.
I have a pretty loud voice, but probably not going to happen. But maybe right before I retire, whenever that is, I'll get on the mic man stand and I'll do a body getter for everybody.
Oh, I will. You need to tell me when that happens, because if I'm not at that game, I will be front row and center to hear that happen. And hopefully,
okay, well, I'll figure out when that's going to be and I'll let you know.
Hopefully that's
probably
not.
Really want to see that.
Yes. Hopefully that's very far off in the future, because you do such a great job. And like I said, we're very appreciative of this. Real quickly, I know we talked a lot about cheerleaders. You're involved with the Tiger Paws too. Mm-hmm. What do you do to assist them that they might need?
Just a lot of the same things behind the scenes. Like this weekend, they'll have tryouts. Mm-hmm. And Helen, their coach, will run it, but I'll help with whatever she needs. So I help with registration. I'm running a lot of errands. I'll pick up food for the judges. On game days, I have a group of cheerleaders and Tiger Paws that I take to my appearances. And then a big thing that I do for cheerleaders and Tiger Paws and Albee program on game days is I set up food for them. So I go to the grocery store on Fridays and buy all kinds of snacks for them. And then I have Chick-fil-A for them at halftime. And then we host the visiting cheerleaders and mascot as well. So game day, I like to be the perfect hostess and make sure everybody eats and everybody's drinking water and Gatorades. And then I like to have just some surprises for them and treats for them as well. And then the rest is a lot of kind of background stuff as well. I go to all the appearances that they do, and I play the music and tell them kind of what our program's going to be, what cheers we're going to do, and what songs we're going to play, so they'll be able to dance to them as well. And then I take a lot of pictures so that we can put them on our social media pages. So a lot of it is kind of background work with whatever Helen needs to support her with running the team and being their everyday coach.
You do so much behind the scenes, and obviously, there's a lot of other people that are involved too. But I don't know how you run on that engine. You have so much energy. I'm tired here just listening to you and everything that you have to be involved with on a game day, much less during the week. But it sounds like that it has been something that has been your life's work and something that you really, really do enjoy.
I do.
Real quick, you said you hosted you host the visiting teams.
Uh-huh.
I know you have to be the face of hospitality, but is there any teams that tend to be a little less, that you don't like to be as hospitable to?
No, we like to be welcoming and personal to everybody. It's actually kind of a tradition in the SEC that everybody does that.
Okay.
So whenever we travel, we will go to the locker room, visiting team, cheerleaders, and they'll have some food for us and drinks at halftime. So we all kind of do it. And we have our little group. We have an SEC Spirit Coordinators group. And so we all are friends and know each other very, very well and compare our programs to make sure we're kind of all doing some of the same things. So we want to welcome everybody to our course. And we want to beat them to death, but we can serve them some food and welcome them on campus as well.
See, this is how it should be. We should leave it on the field, but everybody, when we, and I think that is a testament not just to you, your teams, but the Auburn family as well. And I can't tell you how many times I hear a story from an opposing fan or even someone that's not from the SEC that says, I hear about SEC all the time. We think we're going to get there. Y'all going to be jerks. Y'all going to be awful. But Auburn is just different. Like, I've never been walking down the street and been told to come over to somebody's tailgate. Here's some free food. It's something I know that probably happens in different degrees elsewhere. But there's something different about Auburn. And, it's hard to really put what that is. But I think part of the big reason why we're so unique and why we are the way we are is because of people like you and the teams that you lead and help kind of build the spirit. You lead the spirit more or less in this. What else from your Auburn story? Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you'd like to share about your time?
I told a lot of people that when I first started this job, all I wanted to do, and I felt like I will have made it if I ever get to work a football national championship game and if we go to the Final Four. That if that ever happens, I'm probably going to retire because there's not going to be anything better than that.
Right.
I've been fortunate that I worked in 2 national championship games for football and went to a Final Four and got to cheer for the Tigers. So I'm not quite ready to retire, but is just kind of a dream come true that I get to do this every day, and we get to cheer for our Tigers while they, really have just been at the top of college athletics several times. It's just pretty amazing what we get to do and the things that we get to be a part of representing Auburn like we do.
And I know that you value each of those experiences, but if you had to choose of the 2 national championships for football and the Final Four, which one's your favorite that you've been a part of?
I would probably say the first national championship because, it was the first one we'd won since 57. Mm-hmm. And you just kind of felt all year like this is special and we're going to do something special. And, having the chance to watch Cam every week, you just felt like he was kind of a once in a lifetime player. And I didn't think we were going to lose ever, even when we were down so big in Tuscaloosa. And I thought to myself, not a big deal. They can score points pretty fast. Mm-hmm. So I hope they're ready for the second half because we're going to be ready and we're going to go out and win the game. So all year long, you just felt like this is it. So I think that one, just because it had been the first one and he was a special player and you just felt something special in the atmosphere all year long.
Yeah, they're all special moments, but there was just something very unique about all that came together in that one season. And obviously resulted in what we're all so happy to celebrate in this day. And obviously, the 2013 one didn't end the way we wanted it to, and neither did the Final Four, but they're still, equally special in their own ways.
Oh,
and
for sure.
Very jealous that you had a front row seat to all 3 of those things.
Amazing. You watch those things on TV every single year, and then just to have your team be in it and to be right there, is probably an experience, all of them, that I'll remember forever.
Absolutely. And there are many more to come probably because, as you said, you better not be retiring anytime soon.
I don't think so. I think we could get another one. We can get a championship in basketball, and we can get one in football and baseball and every sport we have.
Absolutely. That should be your goal, is when we have a national championship in everything. That is when you could retire.
That would be great. We get to go and cheer at the national championship celebrations every time we win one. So I like to cheer at a few more of those too before it's time for me to get in my rocking chair.
Absolutely. Well, what I'd like to do with you now as we wrap up every show is a fun little questionnaire at the end, where it's kind of a lot of this or that, pick your favorite this. Usually a little explanation is involved in some of these answers. But if you're ready, we'll get started with that.
Okay.
All right. These are 12 questions. Your first question, orange or blue?
Blue.
Why blue?
I look better in navy than I do in orange. That's really it.
That is the common theme that I've heard for the explanation of blue. I don't know what it is. Like, people just don't like the way they look in orange.
Yeah. And there's so many different shades of orange too.
Yeah. You can mix them up into some really gross ones. Tennessee, Texas.
Exactly.
Question 2. I think I know the answer to this one, but we'll find out. Aubie or War Eagle?
Oh, Aubie. Of course. I love the Eagle, but Aubie's the man.
Yes. It's, I would be shocked if you didn't pick Aubie over the War Eagle. But they're both unique and special mascots to us. But especially with your ties, I would imagine the next meeting y'all had with Aubie would not go well if he heard this.
Probably have his feelings hurt.
Yes, we can't be having that happen right now.
No.
All right. Question 3. Your favorite part of the Auburn fight song? Phrase, word, whatever you like. What's your favorite part of the fight song?
Go, go, go.
Nice.
Because you can say that real loud and everybody can remember that.
It's the easiest part, yes. And that is usually where you
can say that.
Yeah, you hear people just get into that on that part. Everybody, everybody's in on that one.
Yes, even if you don't know it all, you can figure out go, go, go.
Question 4, your favorite Auburn athletics program. So of all the sports programs, this is the one I would choose. If you can play favorites. I don't know if you can.
Yeah, I don't know, Kyle. That'd be hard to say because we cheer for a lot and I love them all. So I'm just going to have to plead the fifth on that one. They're all my favorites.
Usually I push the issue, but in your case, I think I'll let it stand on that one.
That would be great. we try to treat all of them the same.
Absolutely. Question 5, your favorite Auburn athlete of all time, if you do have one.
Oh, let me think. It would probably be Cam, like everyone would say, just because his year was so magical. And I wasn't here when Bo and Charles Barkley were students. I was still in high school then. So probably Cam, because you knew he was a special talent.
Yeah. And I think for Cam too, it's outside of just the talent. Obviously that's, once in a lifetime athlete right there. But for me, it was almost his infectious personality. And it makes sense with you guys because as I said, you have a very infectious personality too. And I really admire that about him, because it's one thing to be the big time athlete on campus and then just kind of shun everybody and just kind of do your thing and go. But he went to schools and volunteered.
Yes.
I remember Cam coming to the store I worked at in Auburn and just palling around with me. He didn't know me from, Adam. So that's something special that I think is really cool and unique about him.
Yeah, you're exactly right.
Question 6. Do you have a favorite Auburn coach of all time?
It would probably be Coach Dye, just because he was a legend before I ever got here. And then when I was a student, I got a chance to meet him a couple of times. And then when I came back to Auburn after I left freshman year, I worked in alumni as director of Auburn Club. So I had an opportunity to travel with him to a lot of club meetings, and just to get to know a legend like him in person was amazing. And he was so funny and said the worst words, but he always made you laugh all the time. And you just felt like, you were in the presence of somebody who just was bigger than life.
Yeah. We miss him very much. And, obviously that was about a year ago now. That was obviously a very sad day for the rest of the Auburn family. The thing is, though, what he gave us is much more than just football wins. He gave us who we are. Obviously everybody in their own ways, you have contributed to the spirit of Auburn. But I think as a coach, there's not many other out there that can say that they had this much of a stamp on who we are as the Auburn family, as Coach Dye did. Question 7, your favorite non-athletics Auburn person. So it can be a family member, it can be a faculty member, a professor, it can be somebody that nobody would know, but your favorite person, Auburn person outside of athletics.
Dean Foy.
Okay.
Dean Foy. When I was a student, my senior year, I was in an organization called Cater Society for Senior Women. And one thing that we did every year is we went over to visit Dean Foy. And so it was just neat to know him and to learn that he wasn't even an Auburn grad. He was an Alabama grad, but he was Auburn to so many of us as well. And the student center when I was a student was named after him. So just to spend time with him, like he's just the sweetest little old man you would ever be around. But we got to do that every year, at least once, sometimes more, where we just spend time listening to his Auburn stories. He would probably be my favorite.
Isn't it interesting how some of our favorite people in Auburn history never started as Auburn people to begin with?
You're exactly right.
It's kind of a funny trend.
And Dean Foy, you're right.
Yeah. Question 8, your favorite Auburn building, on campus, off campus. If you can make a case for an Auburn building somewhere else in the United States, I'll take it. But your favorite Auburn building? Sanford
Hall. We have had the opportunity to go inside the clock tower a couple of times. So it's amazing. And then probably my favorite thing to listen to is the fight song at noon on Sanford. Just to be downtown, it just makes you feel like this is what Auburn is right here. Listening to this fight song, it's so pretty. And then seeing Sanford and the people downtown and students sitting on the lawn, it's just it makes you feel like this is the most special place on earth.
It's a very reverent thing too, because you'll see people playing Frisbee, studying, just having conversations. And then in an instant, it all stops and focuses on Sanford Hall. And, obviously this university is much bigger than athletics. And I think that right there is a signal of it, that we all focus on something. We don't focus on the football stadium in that moment. We focus on a building that represents the university as a whole. But because if it didn't start with that, we wouldn't all be here. Or
exactly.
At least.
And yet the sign is there too. Like when I was a student, I thought the biggest deal in the world would be taking my picture and my cap and gown in front of that sign with Sanford in the background. And I think students still do that, but it makes you feel like I've been here 4 years and this is my moment.
Yes. The funny thing is that you'll see a line to take a picture from that sign, even if graduation may be months away, but people are in there, people who come visit campus, they're like, I have to have this picture. Not in front of the
Perfect.
Heisman trophies or anything like that, not the statues on but this sign, this building represents this place.
Mm-hmm.
All right. We got a few more here. Question 9, your favorite Auburn place to eat?
My favorite place is Niffers.
Such a good one. Corn nuggets. Do you like the corn nuggets?
I do. I love corn. And I like the grilled chicken salad that has Mexicali dressing. When I was a senior, when my brother was a freshman, and we got to go a lot to Niffers, and then they had $1.99 hamburgers. So he always had his hamburger and I had my salad, and we just got to spend time together.
Absolutely. That is not a bad thing to try in the house there. In fact, I'm going to need to stop this call right now and drive to Auburn right now.
I know. I might be going there for lunch.
Question 10. I think this is a tough one for you too. Your favorite Auburn tradition, and I always specify this can be sports or non-sports related. If you have like a weird personal Auburn tradition, we've had some of those. But when I say this is my favorite Auburn tradition, what is it for you?
My favorite Auburn tradition is probably a tie. Can I have a tie?
I will allow it.
Okay, a tie between Tiger Walk and Spirit March. Spirit March, is a parade where cheerleaders, Tiger Balls, marching band, come in from 4 different sides and do a pet rally in the middle of the street. Newer tradition since it hadn't been here as long as Tiger Walk, but it's just amazing to be able to do a pet rally there in the middle of the street and to do that parade in and see all the fans from all ages watching you do that. And then Tiger Walk is just special and has been since my freshman year in 1989, because you get to see the players, and I like to look in their eyes, and in my mind, I can tell myself, okay, they're really focused today. Got that look in their eyes. So I kind of feel like I know how the game's going to go just because I looked in somebody's eyes and they were focused that day.
Yeah.
The walk started here, and so everybody else in the country copied what we started here. So that is all really special because the original is the best there is.
I was about to say, there's a lot of copycats, copy elephants, copy bulldogs out there.
There are. They are, but they cannot do it like we can.
And I'm so glad that you brought up the Spirit March, the Four Corners Pep Rally, because honestly, I've known about it and during my time at Auburn and since moving there, but in the last few years, especially I missed it last year with everything being shut down. That honestly has become, it's up there in terms of my favorite traditions. And I try, if the Wi-Fi is good, to do a live stream of that for people online every single time, because so many people are there for the Tiger Walk, and that is 100% understandable. I love it too. But once the team leaves, once the athletes are gone, it's just us, the Auburn family. And obviously they're a part of it too, but they've got some business to take care of. It's just us there congregated together, the band, the cheerleaders, the Tiger Paws, the faculty. That's a cool Auburn moment.
It really is. It's just so special. I feel like we really get into the spirit of the day just right there, because everybody's cheering and we all have the same goal, just to cheer for our team and to win the game. Is amazing.
Absolutely. Question 11, and these are my last 2 questions are usually my favorite ones. Your favorite Auburn memory?
Gosh, I've had really so many great memories.
I was about to say this is going to be a tough one.
It probably would be just graduating from Auburn, coming from a small town, and my entire family came, and extended family members, and my grandparents were alive then, and I was very close to them and have been since I was a little girl. And just to see everybody here to cheer for me as I graduated from Auburn and accomplished a goal that I had set, so early in life. It was just kind of a magical day. We all went to Niffers afterwards and had dinner. I got to pick the place, so I took everybody to Niffers, but it was just special. And they had a reception where your family and you got to meet the president. So after, you got to shake the president's hand. And so it was just felt like, I keep saying magical because there's been so many magical moments, that, a personal achievement that was amazing and something that, you just had to work really, really hard for, and it all kind of worked out.
Yeah. It always goes back to family, even in, in those most special, more intimate moments, sharing that with your intermediate family, the completion of a journey that you have had since basically the day you were born. Final question. Describe Auburn to me in one word other than family.
Spirit.
Spirit.
That would be a good one, because everybody's so spirited and everybody loves Auburn.
Honestly, if you had picked any other word other than that, I would have been a little bit disappointed.
Yeah, but it just fits.
It does. It fits you, it fits us as the Auburn family, and it fits the university and the town as well. So thank you so much, Latisha, for sitting down with me and telling us about your Auburn story. This has been one of, obviously, I've enjoyed every one of them, but this has been a very special one for me to hear the voice, the face behind some of our cheerleading, our Tiger Paws that we've had over the years. So thank you so much for sitting with me.
Thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
And we appreciate all the listeners out there checking out this story and many others here on Auburn Roots. And we'll be back on a new episode again very soon. Thank you for listening, and War Eagle.
War Eagle.